West Side.
We really are, Bob. What was that? The New York Times they had all these, it was a rogue gallery of criminals. They had Larry Fink, Zelensky, Netanyahu, Mark Zuckerberg, Janet Yellen. They all spoke.
Oh, okay.
And the guy I call scam bankster fraud, Sam Brinkman, he spoke. That was one of his first coming out, you know, oh, I don't know what I was doing. Twinkling funds, really? Is that what happened? They're letting him off the hook for God. The polls. Oh, right, I see that. It's an interesting thing about what happened to the left.
What actual progress are they making for Assange? I want to know. Dare to ask them what actual. I can tell you what progress I'm making for Assange. What are they actually accomplishing? Or does it matter? Or does it not matter? Guess what? Then help me then. Ed, please, yeah, we want you to be there. Don't stand up to the theft of money coming from volunteers. That's kind of embarrassing, honestly. Yeah, aren't you ashamed of yourselves? Yeah, they gentrifying activists. Instead of I'll say it again. They gentrifying activists. I'm the actual poor person. I'm the actual victim of war. Take a look at the Korean activists. I'm the actual poor person. I'm the actual victim of war. Take a look at the Korean War wars. What happened about revolutionary and how they were put in war. Go ahead, Randy. Say something. Come on, Randy. Lead us. Lead us to the real side where I just saw this.
All right, I want to thank you all for showing up here today.
I've done a lot of stuff for Assange. I've done a lot of stuff for Assange. That's what y'all never going to help me. Are you going to help me? I'm just good. Just want to shut up and go away. You just want me to shut up and go away. You're never going to help me. I know. You're never going to help me.
Do not get real
What are you going to
close.
help me?
Get
What are you
back.
going to do? What are you going to do? Blackball me from the industry?
You can stand back there. Ignore some of the noise.
With their
Please get
sexual
back.
assault allegations? Yo, go ahead, Nick Ron, help up again.
Everybody at the court and the lawyers to shut us down. So we need room for pedestrians. Make room for pedestrians. Thank you all for showing up here today at the consulate of the
That's why they got
foreign colony UK here in support of Julian Assange. My name is Randy Credico. I am here today to move it along. We have a lot of speakers today. We have a lot of speakers, so I am going to be very brief. We're going to get from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the very end. We will be Roger Waters.
Where's status quo at? Where's status quo at? I want them to ask where's Nick Ron at?
Stay back.
Yeah? You ain't gonna listen to me. Then I'm
Don't
gonna keep
listen
talking.
to some of the
Regular.
All right, so we like to bring up.
Disposable activists. This is
We'd
ridiculous.
like to start this with Chuck Slacken from New York City, Free Assange. Chuck is going to say a few words. We're going to move it right along.
Go ahead, Randy.
I want to say a few words on behalf
You know what I mean? That's more sex games with your celebrities, Randy.
grassroots organizers that have been working
Yo, we're Lee Campaign. We're all the fake ones.
of Julian Assange from the beginning.
You know what I mean? I know they watch it.
years,
They can't wait till your shows
long
out here again.
before there were
You blackball me, I'll blackball
national
you.
organizations involved in this movement.
I am street.
There were people
You know what I mean?
who
Yo,
were
this is garbage.
getting out
Yo,
there,
I'm just
printing
trying to
their
I don't
own
want to get in
flyers,
trouble.
being in the
That's the
streets
other
with their
real
own
people
signs,
who from years ago.
getting the word out.
Go ahead, yeah, he mad because you want
And they've been the backbone of this movement. And for those here today who maybe it's their first time that they're at an event for Julian Assange, I say welcome. Because it's important for all of us to be involved and get more people involved in this as we go. I'm a union activist.
The police said, no, go ahead,
The unions
go ahead.
involved in this movement in support of
They
Julian
help
Assange.
some people.
They haven't been so far because we can use their members, we can use their resources, and we can also use their experience in organizing. It's one thing that union organizers understand is you have to bring people together, their members, on what they can all work on together, not to
They keep telling me what to do, yeah?
concentrate on the things that
Some people get to be somebody, yeah? Some people get help, some people
to come
don't.
together
Yeah?
and follow that.
You know what I mean?
And
Whatever
all
you
we
did
have
for
to
Assange,
do
I'm
to
sure it was
work
more than me.
on behalf of
I'm sure it
Julian
was more than me.
Assange
You know,
is
whatever
to
Randy
believe
did
in
for
no
me,
extradition,
because he's a celebrity, he's connected to
dropping
Jimmy
the
Dore.
charges,
Hold on,
and
Bob,
freedom
you know
for
the guy
Julian
wait, 200 consecutive days.
Assange. That's enough that we need
Pictures are
to
still
grow
up,
the
200
numbers of people
consecutive days of me asking
to
to
work
get
on
Assange
this.
the FTP platform.
And I'd like to publicly thank Randy Credico for all he has done as he drives the force to free Julian Assange.
They don't care
Free
about the
Julian
facts.
Assange, drop the charges.
To say hello to everybody,
I'll tell you I'm
including
fake, I'm with
the
CIA,
500
go
cover
ahead.
agents,
I'm the CIA.
NSA, and the CIA that have sent some of their agents in here
That's me.
that really bothered us. But let's just ignore them, all right? We are here to support Julian Assange and end this persecution of Julian Assange.
But they don't
Others
care.
would like to see it continue.
All right,
We're
information
gonna
still.
rally
Hey,
about
guess what? Yeah, it never is.
Why are you trying to make it about you, dude? It's about Julian. You don't want to unite with Julian.
Go ahead, bro.
He's a very dynamic leader of the left party. He's a member of the Bundestag, and she's
Why are you interrupting us, brother?
the Assange movement for a long time. She spoke here last year, and she spoke in D.C. and she's been working her tail off.
Are you guys
Supporting Julian Assange with legislators in this country.
No, we're not.
And I have a difficult time pronouncing her last name. She's known. You know, remember Sammy Davis? They said, just Sammy? Forget about him. It's just seven. Give her a big round of applause.
This guy's a real fucking guy. This guy's also a real guy.
Dude, you're fucking mentally
Whatever,
ill.
man.
You need help.
Yeah, go ahead. You're helping, bitch. Go ahead, bitch.
Germany
Yeah.
and Europe
Yeah.
for this important
I'm mentally ill.
action
Fuck you, man.
for press
Yeah, I'm mentally
freedom
ill for
today
helping
on
y'all.
the International
Yeah,
Day
guess what?
of Human Rights.
Swing on me,
Fighting for
bitch.
Julian Assange's freedom is nothing less than fighting for freedom itself. And dear friends, we are not few. On the contrary, support for Julian Assange is growing. 5 major newspapers that have worked with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, New York Times, The Guardian, El País, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, they have just published a joint appeal calling for the end of Julian Assange's political persecution by the US government. And in Germany too, there is a growing movement for his release. For several years already, there has been a non-partisan, a cross-party parliamentary group in the German Bundestag in which parliamentarians for all parties participate with the aim of working for the freedom of Julian Assange and demanding from the German government political asylum for Julian in Germany. It gets better. In a joint non-partisan appeal that I helped to initiate, 12 former ministers, including several justice ministers, writers, artists, journalists, they are all campaigning for the release of Julian Assange. And even ministers of the German current government supporting the release of Julian Assange. And after many years of campaigning, in July of this year, the release of Julian Assange and the German Bundestag condemned the political persecution of Julian as an attack on press freedom and called the German government to work to secure his release from the British custody as well as to end the extradition case to the United States. It was a vast majority of the German parliament supporting this resolution. And that means this is a great success and shows us that political mobilization works, dear friends. It works. And everything what is possible in Germany and Europe will also be possible in the United States. I believe in this. And now is the time to salute the new elected Congress and mobilize together in Washington, D.C. to defend the great U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment by winning bipartisan members of Congress to stand up for press freedom and to stand up for the freedom of Julian Assange. And this, my friends, is the task and the goal for the new year. It must become the year of Julian Assange is released and can return to his family and his children who miss him very much. Let's free Julian Assange. Thank you.
She stayed over. She was leaving this morning, and she changed her flight later on in the day just so she could be here. She just flew in from D.C. She's got to go back to Germany. So once again, give a big round of applause. Senator, Congressman, I don't know, in the Bundestag. 7. Dagolin. How's that? That's it. He's very good. All right, can you hear? Can we turn the sound up? Is that as high as it goes? We're at. How's that? Is that good? All right. We'll hug the microphone today in front of the U.S. colony here, their consulate, and it is a crime against humanity, which is happening today on this International Human Rights Day. It's a crime against humanity, what they are doing to Julian Assange. For 4 years now, 4 years, he has been incommunicado. What has he done? He is no threat to anybody except for those who are a threat to everybody, which means the U.S. government and the British government. They are a threat to everybody. Julian is a threat to nobody. He's inside this dank, dark, rancid, squalid, medieval dungeon called Belmarsh. So we got to continue. We cannot sit on our laurels today. This is a better turnout than last year at this time, but we got to continue every single day. Tomorrow, what are we going to do? The next day, call, organize, have a rally, have a vigil, but we got to keep moving because we are facing incredible odds here. We are facing this and that and all of the other huge organizations, all of the MI6, MI5, CIA, NSA, all of these. We're fighting against them because they want him quiet. And we got to fight. We got to keep going, folks.
Amen.
And I really just came back up here to read a I got a couple of messages. Cornel West could not make it. He was going to show up today, and he's in LA. But he did send me this, and I'm the worst reader in the world. In 40 years in show business, I never got any voiceover work because of it. But this is from Cornell. My dear brother, would you hold this? My dear brother Julian Assange is a courageous truth teller and fact revealer who clashed with the lies of the American empire. Let us forever stand in deep solidarity with him. Cornel West. All right. Somebody else who's an actress or an actor can read it later. This is from John Pilger, but it's way too much for me to read. All right, look at that. Forget about it.
Just read every other sentence.
All right, we're going to bring you up a little. Here, you practice it. There you go.
Yes.
All right. Garland Nixon.
Yeah.
They can quiet him on Twitter, as they did the other day, is a great, and Facebook, is a great satirist, is a great radio host, and one of the real wonderful individuals in support of Julian Assange for a long period of time. And he came all the way up from D.C. Please don't hit me up for camp here. All the way up from D.C. Garland Nixon is really a tremendous talent. Thank you, Garland. And he's going to speak now.
Thank you. There are two issues here. We're here to support Okay, great. We're here to support Julian Assange, the person.
Into the mic and loud.
We're here to support Julian Assange and stand for him as a person, as a human being who is being abused and who is being tortured. And we're not going to go away. We're not going to stop. We're not going to give up. Everybody who is here today is going to continue the fight, is going to, whether it's on social media, whether it's talking to friends, making phone calls, we're going to continue the fight. There are the issues of justice, but there is the issues of a person who we all owe, who has enlightened us in so many ways. And we have to thank Julian Assange, the person, for that. But we also have to look at the issues at hand. Can the government interfere and intercept information between a lawyer and the client, and then use that information to prosecute the lawyer? You have no justice system if that can happen. And we have to ensure that we stand up and fight against these types of injustices, because these can affect us all and will. Since we're standing up for Julian Assange, we can see the direction that this thing is going.
Right.
And when we say we are all Julian Assange, part of what we mean is because we all stand up against injustice, we all stand to face the wrath of the empire in the same way that he does, in so many ways. So I want to thank everyone for coming out here today and remind everyone this is symbolic, this is great, everybody should see what we're doing, everybody should hear what we have to say, but when we leave, we must all keep up the fight. Thank you.
Yeah. Sidewalks clear on the edges.
What was that?
Keep the sidewalks clear on the edges.
All right, keep the sidewalk clear and the edges so people can walk through. Otherwise,
Keep us
we'll be
legal.
moved out of here.
Keep
All
us
right,
legal.
so please make at least a 2-foot, 3. You see that centerpiece there? All right, that big block. Try to let that be a
Anyone wanna
path
get
for
through?
everybody. All right. Sorry. Hello? Just made it? All right. Well, guess what? Guess you
Right
get
in
to
time.
speak next. Do you want to speak? All right. So, for many years, I was involved. How did I get involved with Julian Assange? Is that he got on my radio show in 2016.
Hello.
And the person that got him on the show, reluctantly, I'm sure she regrets it today to some extent, was Margaret Ratner-Kunstler. She's the one. She's been working with Assange on a legal basis since 2013. She is a long time and a very quiet. She does it quietly. This is something I admire so much about her,
Unassuming.
is that she does things and gets it done and doesn't look for a lot of applause for it. So she just, going back, I met her in 1987. I'd seen her on, she was the Person of the Week on ABC for her work on behalf of those that were being spied on and disrupted by the FBI peace groups and church groups out of Central America. So Margaret was involved in that big time. So would you please welcome civil rights attorney Margaret Ratner-Kunstler.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm glad there's so many people here. This is Marty, can you just step aside?
Just hold them.
I'll hold it. Okay. How's that? Is that better? Yes. Okay. Sorry. The crowd here is larger than I've ever seen a crowd here, and that's. You know, I think that the work we're doing is having an effect. I really do, and I'm usually, not optimistic, but I am optimistic about the number of people working for Assange, the number of people doing hundreds of different tasks, whether it's handing out leaflets or giving speeches or writing articles or writing books. There are hundreds of people out there working for Assange, and that's something very new. And Assange would be happy for that, because if you ever go and visit him during this period, he says, "What are you doing for me?" And he says that because he's paralyzed. He can't do anything for himself. So what are we doing for him? We're doing a lot for him, and times have changed. And I want to say that COVID has helped us, because COVID has taught some of us who didn't know how to have conversations over Zoom or over a Signal, now can do that. And so we can meet across the country, and we can organize intense places at once, and that's really helped us. And the fight has to be carried out. And I'm a lawyer, and I'm telling you, the fight is not in the courtroom. I'm not opposed to having lawsuits brought, because that also brings attention to Julian. But really, the fight is in the street. And if we can get enough people doing enough things, we'll be victorious, and we'll free Julian. Thank you very much.
Margaret, thank you. Let's have a little chant now. Free Julian Assange chant. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Free Julian Assange. Again. Free Julian Assange. Again. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Louder. Free Julian Assange. Beautiful. Free Julian Assange. All right. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. All right, go ahead. Keep going. All right. I have some time to burn. That's why I asked you to do that chant. Okay. All right. No. We have. Do you want to read that first? All right. This is a letter from a message from John Pilger. He sent it to me yesterday, and someone that is an actress, Elizabeth Ruff, Maldonado Ruff, will come up and read this. I'll hold the dog.
Okay. This is from John Pilger.
Right directly to like an inch away.
I'm a lefty. Me too. We switch hands. I first met Julian in 2009, and we have been friends since. For one thing, we share a black sense of humor. It's this sardonic side to him that has helped keep him going. Even during the darkest days in Belmarsh, his wit is the beacon of his resilience. It seems strange to say, but visiting Julian in that hellhole is uplifting, almost inspirational. Whenever I leave the prison visiting room, I always look back, and there he sits, alone, waiting to be taken back to his cell, and his fist is raised high in eloquent defiance. But there's a limit to this heroism. If Julian is extradited to the U.S., that may be the end. He may not survive. Please think about that today. And if necessary, and in any way you can, stand in the way of his tormentors. Stand with him. Thank you.
Free Julian Assange! 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 Free Julian Assange!
All right. Thank you. That's John Pilger, the great filmmaker and author and activist, and one of Julian's closest friends. Somebody said to me, why don't we start a movement to boycott anything from the UK? And I said, well, what do I get from the UK? I hate warm, flat beer, and I don't buy weapons. That's all they have for fucking export is weapons. Oh, tea. John McDonough likes tea. I don't. Smithwick's. All right. Yeah. Shepherd's pie. You got to keep it. You got here. This is guys from the NYPD. Yep.
All the military.
All right. Thank you, sir. A yellow vest. It's a yellow vest. All right.
Yeah.
So, who is next? Who is next? We are going to bring up Joe Loria. I urge you once again to keep this sidewalk clear in the middle there.
Space in between.
This space in between.
Looking good.
Coming up now, is the managing editor of Consortium News, Joe Loria. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Andy. Can you hear me? No?
No, you gotta kiss it.
All right, how's that?
Yeah!
All right, I'll try to keep my mouth there and not move my head. Randy asked me to do an impersonation of Fidel Castro in terms of how long he wants me to speak. And I have quite a few things to say here. By first opening here, this building I used to visit every week for about 10 years to get a briefing from the British ambassador to the United Nations, because in this building is not only the consulate but the UN mission, and I was a correspondent for 25 years down there at the UN. So I got a real sense, an insight into thinking of British diplomacy and its role in the world and the influence it has. And it might be playing a game of letting people think, as Randy does, that they're a colony of the US. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. British diplomats are probably the best in the world, and so are their spies. They've been in this game a very, very time. What came clear to me, and what I think is very obvious, even from the case of Julian Assange, is that the United Kingdom is not another vassal of the United States like Germany or France, which reluctantly goes along with orders coming from Washington. You'll see Macron making noises. He goes to see Putin in Moscow. He talks about a new security architecture for Europe. And then what happens? Her prime minister, her chancellor also says things, we're not going to send weapons, but ultimately they concede to the U.S., they let that pipeline be destroyed. Britain may have been involved in that destruction. The thing is, we don't know that for sure, but we do know that the British government, when it's lost its empire, really at the Suez crisis, when Eisenhower stepped up and stopped it, that's when they realized that they better join the United States in running a joint empire. And being as clever as they are, they're not just taking orders, in my view, from the United States. For example, in the first Gulf War, remember Margaret Thatcher said publicly to George H.W. Bush, don't go wobbly about attacking Saddam Hussein? This is the British Prime Minister talking to the President of the United States in public, telling him to grow a backbone and attack Iraq. In the second Gulf War, Germany and France voted against the authorization of the invasion down at the Security Council. That was one of the rare instances where a European so-called vassal stood up to the United States. De Gaulle pulling France out of NATO being another. But here was Germany and France voting with China and Russia not to authorize the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. Guess which permanent member, the only one, voted with the United States? Very good. Great Britain. And why? Because it was planning to join the invasion of its former colony, Iraq, all along. Blair was not Bush's poodle, as is often thought. The plans were in there to invade, and they took part. They couldn't do it alone. They needed the United States with them. I'm not saying that Britain drove that, but they had an equal part in driving that invasion, the Downing Street memo, etc. All this talk about 45 minutes and Saddam can have a missile in Trafalgar Square and all that rubbish that we were told. So coming to Julian Assange, we have to understand that this journalist is being persecuted not just by the United States, but by Great Britain. Why? Because they want him crushed. I'm talking about Whitehall. They want Assange crushed as much as the United States does for revealing crimes of state. They took an active part in the operation to arrest Julian Assange from the Ecuador embassy in London. And how did they do that? Well, it was called Operation Pelican. And this is from Declassified UK's reporting in the last few days. The Home Office had 8 staff. The Cabinet Office had 7 staff working on the secret operation to arrest Julian Assange in April 2019. The Ministry of Justice, which runs the courts, they won't say if their staff was involved in this Operation Pelican. The Foreign Office at first refused to say if its premises were used for the operation. And they lied. A junior minister from the Foreign Office lied to Parliament, saying that they weren't involved, and now it's been revealed that yes, they had several officers working on this case from the Foreign Office. And so Ian Duncan, who was Foreign Minister for the Americas, for Europe and the Americas from 2016 to 2019, he ran this UK campaign to force Assange out of the embassy. As a minister in Parliament, he made his opposition to Assange very well known. He called Julian Assange a miserable little worm in a speech to the House of Commons. In his diaries, Duncan refers to, quote, the supposed human rights of Julian Assange. He admits in his book to arranging an article in the Daily Mail, a hit piece on Assange in the Mail, that was published the day after Julian was arrested. Duncan watched the UK police pulling Julian Assange out of that embassy from his operation room in the Foreign Office. He watched a live feed, and they were wearing ties, his team, and the ties were adorned with little pictures of pelicans for Operation Pelican, and they had a drink to celebrate the arrest of Julian Assange. Afterward, Theresa May, who was the Prime Minister at the time, announced to the House of Commons that he'd been arrested, and there was a loud cheer. I don't know if it only came from the Conservative backbenchers. It could have also been Labour. I wouldn't be surprised. Duncan, the next day, or a couple of days later, flew to Ecuador to thank President Lenin Moreno, the new government of Ecuador, that lifted the political asylum of Julian Assange. He thanked him and brought a beautiful porcelain plate from the Buckingham Palace gift shop. I just want to say that the independence of the British judiciary is at stake in this case. Assange waits a decision from the High Court on his application to appeal the extradition order, as well as aspects of the lower court ruling. The Lord Chief Justice Ian Burnett is the judge who will decide whether to accept that appeal. And guess what? Alan Duncan and Judge Burnett are good friends. They had lunch together. They went to their birthday parties. So we want to know, is this an independent judiciary in Britain? I'll tell you that it's clear that the image of British justice and justice itself is on the line in the case of Julian Assange. If he's extradited, the whole world will know the British role in this tragedy and this tragedy. Thank you very much.
All right, Steve Donziger is going to bring up our next speaker. Is Steve Donziger here? I don't see Steve Donziger, which means it redounds on me. Is he right here? All right, Steve Donziger. He will bring up our next speaker.
Hi, everybody. It's unbelievable, isn't it, that we have to be here? Can you hear me? Unbelievable that we have to be here to ask the Brits to do the right thing and free Julian Assange, who is probably the most persecuted political prisoner in the world today. I have the honor of being asked to introduce my friend Roger Waters. You know, obviously Roger is known for his music, his creative genius, and his inspirational leadership on human rights. And Roger, I want to salute you for what you do, because I like that military bearing. A lot of people don't know all the things that Roger does behind the scenes in this world for people to help them get through difficult situations, as I had, but also to more generally advance the cause of human rights. I love you so much, Roger, and get up here and tell us something about Julian.
Hang on. I'm adjusting this microphone because I wrote something down last night and it's on my iPhone. I've no fucking idea what it is, but I'm gonna have a look. And whatever it is, I'm gonna say it. Sophia! Hey, baby! My goddaughter, Sophia. Hey. What was that?
Doesn't matter.
He's giving the soccer
One can't be too careful, you know, out in public. Trolls are everywhere. Hang on. This is weirdly bassy, this VA. Can we get any more top in it so that people can hear what I'm fucking saying? Get to it, my man. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. I'll stay on mic. Okay. I've no idea how long this is going to take because I can't remember writing it, but here we go. I can read it, which is brilliant. Are you ready? Yeah! All right. What does that say? Good afternoon. All right, I'll stop. Well, probably not. You know. It is great to see you all here. Obviously. Well, who's that talking in the back of my? What the fuck is that? Turn it off.
Somebody get that guy out.
Oh no! Oh, look at what's never gonna help me! Never gonna help me!
I don't know what it is, but it sounds like bad radio. Shut up, please. Thank you.
They sick my dog over here.
We're sicking Sophia, the goddaughter, on him. All right, here we go. Witness what's going on behind me. It's quite a good first sentence here. We live in what may be the craziest city, in what is definitely the craziest country in a crazy fucking world. As the Big Apple goes into its completely crazy Christmas thing, I was just thinking, wouldn't it be great if the holidays... Hang on a minute. What is that? Oh, is it in my ears, do you think? I know what it is. I know what it is. Hang on. I'm sorry that I've been doing all of that. I bet it's on YouTube or something.
No,
That's what it was. Wow, we live and learn. It was a podcast playing in my hearing aids. So all I can do is apologise to whoever I was shouting and screaming at. It was me all along. Okay. What a relief. Okay, back to my speech if I can find it.
Well done, Randy.
Here we go. Okay. I was just thinking, wouldn't it be great if the holidays were free of our attachments to competing deities or their disciples or prophets, and could simply be a seasonable expression of general thanks to no one in particular for the bounty that this beautiful planet bestows upon us poor sinners. And thank you, madam. I don't know, somebody chuckled, which is nice. And maybe even a celebration of our potential to look after one another. Paragraph. What's this got to do with Julian Assange? I hear you say. Well, actually, everything. Bear with me, I'll get there. Ever since the persecution of Julian Assange started in 2010, or whenever it was, I've been boiling with rage. Finally, someone was providing with the people with a hitherto absent public service, namely telling us the truth about what was really going on in the corridors of power and the theatres of war. The persecution has been going on for so long, it could have been hard to maintain our rage had not the smear campaign against Julian been enraging and diabolical and so constant. So the rage is still there, boiling away. But I'm going to digress and talk for a minute about hope. 5 years ago, in October 2017, during a tour of North America, I did a Q&A in Vancouver. It was a meeting to support the BDS movement. Thank you. And it was co-hosted by two charming ladies of different faiths. One, a Jewish lady, and one Muslim. We had a good talk. You can find it on YouTube if you're interested. Oh, fuck off, Keith. Sorry, that's a friend of mine. He was texting me about football. I've told you not to text me about football, ever. Okay, sorry. We had a good talk. You can find it on YouTube if you're interested. Anyway, at the end, the Jewish lady asked me a final question. She was a little bit overcome, I have to say. She was a sweet, sweet woman. She said, "What gives you hope?" she said. "Isn't the human heart a remarkable organ?" Mine, in that moment, that evening in Vancouver 2017, took me back to a morning in New York City 15 years earlier, in 2002. I was with an old friend, a man called Etienne Rodagil, a great French lyricist who I was working with on Sa Ira, an opera about the French Revolution. I will get there, I promise. We had stopped for breakfast and sat in a patch of morning sun at a table on the sidewalk outside a bar on 54th Street. I had an espresso. Etienne had a famous grouse, a large one, and opened a packet of Benson and Hedges cigarettes. We chatted, the usual breakfast small talk, you know, the meaning of life, that sort of thing that Frenchmen do. Oh, sorry. Etienne took a few deep drags on his second or third Benson and did that thing Frenchmen do with their eyebrows raised and the corners of their mouths turned down. Hang on. Like that. He nodded. Ground out his cigarette in the ashtray, looked into my eyes and spoke. He said, "I was here." Translated, that is, I was here. I felt. That's the expression. Something. And perhaps I was not alone. Think about it. That is what gives me hope. Perhaps we are not alone. And that brings me back to Julian Assange. Julian Assange reminds me that I am not alone. Because in fact, without Julian Assange, we might as well be alone. Without a free press, we might as well be alone. Without basic human rights for all our brothers and sisters all over the world, irrespective of their color, religion, or nationality, we might as well all be alone. That is why we are standing shoulder to shoulder outside the British Embassy in New York City alongside our brother Julian Assange. So Julian, thank you for standing up to the man on our behalf these last 10 years. You are not alone. Here today on 2nd Avenue, New York, and neither are we. We are many, and we have a message for Vanessa Bereza, that apology for a magistrate that sent you down in that kangaroo court in London. Miss Bereza, you are a disgrace to the legal profession. Fuck you. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I apologize. Sophia, quiet. When I spoke in London in Parliament Square back in February 2020, I wasted a few words on Boris Johnson, who was then the United States tame poodle, sorry, Sophia, in Parliament. He ignored the law and did the bidding of his masters in Washington. Today, the current pitiful British poodle, Rishi Sunak, is equally well trained and biddable. Rishi, sit! Good boy. What about the law, Mr. Sunak? What about Magna Carta? What about basic human rights, Mr. Sunak? You're a fucking wolf, Rishi. Paragraph. Okay, last week there was a glimmer of light from the mainstream media. The New York Times, Le Monde, the Guardian, Der Spiegel and El País published an open letter in support of dropping some of the charges against Julian. Welcome to the party, guys! Where the fuck have you been all these years? All these years when your colleague, Julian Assange, needed you, where were all your editorials exhorting the people to take to the streets in their millions before the dungeon door slammed shut on free speech forever? I sincerely hope your half-assed letter is not just a whimper to cover your own sorry asses. I hope so. We shall see. There are others here to... I've nearly finished. There are others here to speak. So in conclusion, I'll just remind all interested parties, especially the executive branch of the government of the United States of America, Joe Biden et al., and also all members of Congress, to some advice my mother gave to me when I was just a young teenager. She said, Roger, you will have many important decisions to make during your lifetime. When you do, I advise you to, above all, do your research thoroughly. Do all the reading, listen to all opinions, especially opinions that differ from your own. If you are thorough and turn over every rock, you... So I got my gun here, just telling the story. Where the fuck was I? It doesn't matter. I promise. If you're thorough and turn over every rock, you will have done all the heavy lifting. The next bit of the process is easy. So what's the easy bit, Mum? You just do the right thing. So Joe, come on, brother. For once in your fucking life, do the right thing! Free Julian Assange! Thank you very much. That's all I have to say on the subject. Don't forget to feed the dog.
Thank you. Thank you for the sweater, by the way.
Not at all. All right. Thanks a lot.
Give him We have a lot more speakers. Goodbye, Roger. All right. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more speakers. Thank you, Roger. Roger Waters once again. And thank you, Jim and John. All right, we still have Max Blumenthal and many others, but coming up right now, Are you aware of that truck that was floating around D.C., the billboard truck for 4 months with all of these signs here?
Yes.
Well, there are two people here that did the major financing of it. One is my friend Pete. Pete doesn't be pointed out. And the other is that guy. No. Is a gentleman who has been involved for so many years in progressive causes, and plus he makes the best ice cream I've ever had, and that is the peanut butter baked fudge is my favorite. But without him, that billboard truck would have run out of gas about 6 weeks earlier. So give a big round of applause to Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen.
Well, it's not exactly an ice cream kind of day, so you'll just have to be... Yeah. I was supposed to be the lead up to Roger, but he came first, so here I am. You know, we are living more and more in a make-believe democracy. We are fed a mixture of lies and omissions and the big runaround. So when Assange stood up and said the emperor has no clothes by publishing actual government documents, they set out to smite him down with the full power and might of the US government. Let's kill him, says the CIA. Nah, that wouldn't look good. And besides, that would make him a martyr. I know. Let's smear his name and come up with some trumped up charges. Well, they did that for a while and that worked, but then there were no charges. Hey, I got a better idea. Let's stick him in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison for a bunch of years. That usually drives people crazy. Julian Assange has been held in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement. 23 hours a day, every day. That's over 1,000 of solitary confinement. In a solid celled wall, smaller than a horse stable. That is torture. The UN says it's torture. The World Health Organization says it's torture. And according to the National Commission on Correctional Health Care, solitary confinement greater than 15 days is torture. Assange is being punished, and the state of New York recognizes that solitary confinement over 15 days is torture, and they've banned it. It's not allowed in this state. He's being punished, and he hasn't even been convicted of anything. Innocent until proven guilty, my ass. You know, there was another extradition case in England not too long ago. It was General Pinochet, who was accused of committing war crimes. And he got to stay in a mansion under house arrest with an ankle bracelet. Julian Assange is in England awaiting extradition on a charge of exposing war crimes, and he's in solitary. We know what's going on here. This ordeal has lasted over 10 years, and our government is happy to stretch it out, because what they're really about is making the threat to any journalist anywhere in the world that if you print information, truthful information, that the US government doesn't want out there, they will persecute you and make your life miserable. So we're here to have Julian's back, because he did this for us. Sacrificed his freedom, his body, his mental health, to tell us what our government has been doing in our name and with our money. Julian Assange wasn't supposed to be a hero. He is a publisher who published truthful information. In a country that believes in freedom of the press, that's not supposed to be a heroic act. It hurt nobody except the people whose corruption he exposed. But he's a threat to our militarized economy, the military-industrial congressional complex. That cabal has started or continued wars in the last 20 years based on lies at a cost of $8 trillion and 900,000 deaths. Julian Assange exposed the lies that drew us into those wars, the lies that justified continuing them, and the war crimes they lied about. Assange is right. If wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth. That is what motivates him. Truth. That's what the military-industrial congressional complex is deathly afraid of. There are so many outrages in the world today. There are so many injustices. We are overwhelmed. We can't fight them all. How do we decide which outrage to take a stand on? Freedom of the press is the foundation. We will never even find out about all the other injustices if the press is muzzled. At a speech on the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, President Biden proclaimed, "At least 360 people worldwide are currently imprisoned for their work in journalism. We all stand in solidarity with these journalists." Biden neglected to mention that one of those was Julian Assange. The reality is that President Biden stands in opposition to Barack Obama's decision not to prosecute Assange, and instead is continuing Trump's war on the press. It was Harry Truman who said, "Once a government commits to the principle of silencing opposition, it has only one way to go, and that's down the path of increasingly repressive measures until it becomes a source of terror for all its citizens." And it was Julian Assange who said, "We embarked on a mission to bring the First Amendment to the world. Little did we realize that our greatest challenge would come as we tried to bring the First Amendment to the United States." There's something else that Julian said. Every time we witness an injustice and do not act, we train our character to be passive in its presence, and thereby eventually lose all ability to defend ourselves and those we love. So we are acting. We will not be passive in the face of this injustice. We will not give up this fight for freedom of the press, for our democracy, for Julian Assange.
Wow. I didn't think anybody could follow Roger Waters. You did it. All right, we still have a lot of speakers. We have Katie Halpers here, Nick Brana, who's a favorite of that guy out there.